Good morning, everybody. My name is Jessica Vale. I am president of Vale Marketing Solutions. I work very closely with Tom Asciola from Apex, Air Duct, Dryer Vent, and Chimney Cleaning, and my friend Steve from JGS Insurance. And today we are going to have a presentation about air duct cleaning, dryer vent cleaning, and insurance, and where insurance premiums come from. Also, I wanted to mention that if anyone has the CMCA designation, this webinar is approved for 1 CEU credit. So if anyone needs the credits, please shoot me an email after the presentation and I will make sure that you get your certification and it's submitted to the CAI board. I'm just going to type my email address in the chat bar. All right, Tom.
Ready to go. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me. My name's Tom Asciola. I'm the owner of Apex Air Duct Cleaning and Chimney Services. We work with a lot of property managers. I see a couple of familiar names and faces. Let me give a little history about myself. I've been repairing clothes dryers for the last 30 years. The actual dryer vent cleaning came from actual repairing of appliances. So we actually started repairing appliances first, dryer vent cleaning second. And that kind of gives us an advantage over a lot of companies because we know the internal workings of a clothes dryer. So I'm not gonna bore you with too much detail, just a real quick summary. We are certified from the Chimney Safety Institute of America for both chimneys and fireplace and dryer vent cleaning. We're also NATCA certified for the National Air Duct Cleaning Association for air duct cleaning. And we are also NFI certified for gas fireplaces. So this leads us to dryer vent cleaning. I know a lot of you guys manage properties that mandate dryer vent cleanings. And I know you guys go through the process of doing this. So let me just say first off is that dryers do not go on fire. Okay, so the misconception is that people say, we had a dryer fire. Yes, you did, but it's not actually the dryer. What actually goes on fire is lint. And lint gets inside a dryer because of its composite. It's so small, like a snowflake, that even if you clean the dryer vent lint filter, it still bypasses the filter and accumulates inside the dryer itself. So you see statistics all the time with insurance is that you have X amount of dryer fires per year. And this makes people want to go ahead and have the dryer vents cleaned, which is a good idea. But however, the reason why a dryer goes on fire is because of lack of maintenance inside the dryer itself. So let me explain a little bit more about that. So when you have lint that builds up inside a dryer, okay, there's certain triggers that make that dryer go on fire. Number one, overloading the dryer. If you overload a dryer with too many clothes, it cuts the airflow off, makes the dryer work longer, harder, and overheat. The second thing is a clogged lint filter. That's obvious. You should clean it after every load. The third thing is a clogged dryer vent. So when a dryer vent becomes clogged, usually it's with lint, but as we all know, birds and other animals get in these things. So when the dryer vent becomes clogged, it makes the dryer internally overheat. That internal overheating causes the dryer lint that's built up to go on fire. This is what you hear mostly of. So how do we prevent this? What's the best way of doing it? All right. So we mandate to have dryer vents cleaned every 2 years. Okay. So that's number one. Number two, the second thing that we push for is internal dryer vent cleanings. Now you'll see this in some of our certification forms that we actually have a box on this to give customer awareness, to have the dryer maintained internally, which means taking the dryer apart and cleaning the internals out. So God forbid a bird does get into the vent or your vent is clogged, the dryer cannot go on fire. This is really key to protecting the home. So the other thing is using the proper material. Okay, so for example, if you do happen to have a fire if you do happen to have a fire internally inside of a dryer vent, I mean, inside of a dryer, it doesn't spread to the outside. So again, on our reports or any other dryer vent certification form, it should say what type of material they use. And mostly what you'll see is people using this type of material, is flexible ductwork that you see behind everybody's dryer. The problem with this is it crushes a lot behind there. The second thing is, just so you see, this actually goes on fire. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it actually burns. Set the smoke alarm off. So that stuff, what this material does, it actually takes the fire from inside the dryer and now brings it into the house. This is why houses burn down. So this is a key component. Fire marshals and boat code enforcers will tell you that you need a special type of material. This material here, you can light with a torch all day long. It will not burn because it's made of metal materials, all solid metal. So these are little things that we explain to the homeowners when we go in to do a dryer vent cleaning. We also do a full inspection of the material that is used. So this is a key thing. And when I started out, I told you that we are CSIA certified. What that means is that just like your certifications for property management, we go through a training process and it's pretty vigorous. We know all the national building codes, local building codes, and we also know the right of jurisdiction. So let me explain a little bit about the jurisdiction thing. If I'm going too fast, it's because I'm kind of nervous, but anyways, the jurisdiction. So why this is important to you guys is that we had many communities say, hey, you know what? The dryer vent failed inspection, but it was built in the 80s and it's grandfathered in and it should be fine. Well, that's not true. Just so you guys know that the dryer manufacturers have jurisdiction over all building codes, local and national. So if you hook up a clothes dryer, a new clothes dryer to that system has to conform with the manufacturer's specs, which means rigid pipe, it has to be a certain amount of feet, and it has to terminate the right way. So we had issues in a lot of properties that say, oh yeah, this has been grandfathered in and so on and so forth. As a building manager, this is information that you should know, that if you have flexible vent in a wall, vinyl venting in a wall, just like that other material goes on fire, so does that. It does not contain a fire. The only thing that contains a fire is metal rigid pipe. Metal rigid pipe is key to the safety of the community. So just so you know that when we do a dryer vent cleaning, we do a full inspection first. We inspect the entire process and then we clean the dryer vent. So we will make sure that when we're done, that your systems inside all the homes conform to a certain standard. Okay, so what you look for in a dryer vent cleaning company when you're having community, when you're hiring a vendor, a dryer vent cleaning thing, there's a couple of things you should ask. Number one is, are you certified? Okay, and that's key because you know that anybody going in is going to be certified, but listen, if I'm certified, that's great, but I sit behind the desk. My guys, all my technicians are certified because they're the ones that are educated. They're the ones that are frontline guys. Make sure the technicians are all certified. That's important. The second thing is equipment. Make sure they have the proper equipment to do the job. For example, we use nothing but air tools. Matter of fact, well, I thought I had it, but I don't. We use air tools. We do not use brushes. You'll see companies go in with leaf blowers and brushes. They tend to separate the ductwork inside the walls and ceilings, open up a whole can of worms for you. Okay, so you make sure they use the best systems, the best equipment possible, okay, because you don't want to go ahead and basically disconnect lines and this and that, it's important. The third thing is making sure that they have the proper ladders, okay? So for example, a lot of your homes vent out to the roof. So that means if the vent goes to the roof, that vendor needs to get on that roof. Okay. And if they can't get in the roof, they need to get into the attic. They have to get to the end point of that dry event. It's key because you need to, number one, check the airflow when you're before and after, and you have to make sure that that line is not clogged up at the roof. Can't tell you how many times we go there and we find globs of lint all over the roof. Okay. So, make sure, they have the proper tools, make sure they have, the equipment, make sure they're certified. And most important, make sure they can help you in reporting. Some companies out there still use pen and paper. We have a full customer service team that goes ahead and we actually send reports to you in an Excel spreadsheet outlining completions. And this way you can track your communities. Just a little helpful hint. The other thing is, I know that, Emmy, I know you're probably on here. I know that we have some high-rise units, okay? Just want to bring up a little tip. A lot of times that homeowners are responsible for the exterior hood. When you're dealing with a community that's getting their dry events, try to work out with the vendor to say, hey, listen, if the upper floors have a broken vent hood, because a lot of times they have this kind of real cheap, flimsy stuff that dry rots and breaks. And, a lot of times you don't have access points, right? So sometimes it pays to go for a little bit more of a quality hood. Now, this hood here, this is not a sales pitch. This is just to help you understand your options. This hood here does not allow birds to get in it. You do not need to have a bird guard on this. Okay, so this works by airflow. Okay, and then when it closes recessed with little magnets that prevent birds or animals getting in there. Why this is important is if you have 3 stories or 4 stories and you have to pay a premium to get a large ladder up there, this here will solve the issue. Emmy, you're mute.
Hi, good morning.
Hey, Em, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great.
Good. Does that flip so the air comes out?
That's right. Yep.
Oh, wow. So
yeah.
does it come in another color?
Yeah, it comes in any color you want, white, beige, sure. So I was thinking of you on this, because we have some, large properties that go up real high, and we try to tell them that, look, if we're up there and it's broken, replace it with this, and then you never have to go back up there again. And
yeah, that's really nice for the ones under the soffit. Can you send that to me with the dimensions?
You can't work under a soffit.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, you got the ones under the soffit, you have to use a soffit vent.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I will send it to me anyway with the dimensions, and we'll see if we can do it where we have them. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Very good. I will do that.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome. So some other helpful hints. All right. So make sure if the dryer exits the roof, your contractor has the proper ladders to reach the roof. Find a vendor that can offer you electronic completion reports listing homeowners in the community that completed the service. This makes life easier. Make sure they have the proper coverage to protect your community in case of any issues. Steve will talk more about this in a little bit. Like I said, if you have been getting a few calls that the exterior hoods are dry rotted, they're broken, and you've been running into the issue, prepare before the dry vent cleaning to work something out with the vendor. Work out a deal with them. You could save a lot of money and hassle because we're standing right there, we're cleaning the vent. It's crazy not to, not to change the hood while we're right there instead of going back on a second trip. It could save you a lot of money that way. And then also ask if they have cameras. A lot of times we run into dry events that we have issues with that, we could diagnose the issue, whether it be separated, whether it be a nest further down the line. Make sure the vendor has a camera and a capability of doing it. If they do the repairs to it, that's even a bonus. And the repairs are usually simple. We find the location of the clog or disconnect. We cut a little ceiling hole about 8 inches. We make the repair, we patch it, very, non-invasive. So those are little kind of hints, that you could use. Also, just real quick, I didn't touch base too much on chimneys, fireplaces. I just wanted to bring something up to you. I don't know if this is relevant to the management community, but I'm sure it's going to be. That New Jersey just passed a new law that the National Fire Institute now has passed legislation that anybody working on gas fireplaces or wood burning fireplaces or installing new fireplaces has to be a master hearth specialist. They're going to be pushing this legislation through. It's already passed, and it's in the state of New Jersey right now. So New Jersey is the first state that have this mandated. So just figure I'd share that with you. Any questions? All right, great.
Steve, you're going to talk about insurance?
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Tom. Good morning, everyone. And thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Tom, for lighting things on fire. I literally have never seen that on a webinar or a Zoom meeting. So that was pretty wild. My name is Steve Roderick. You guys know me by now, and I fix things and I try not to light them on fire. The JGS team and myself spend most of our days and evenings working with boards and managers to improve their insurance programs, kind of like a mechanic, but for insurance. So let's jump right in. I'm going to use a simple equation to break down where insurance premiums come from, and we'll be able to see how services like Tom at Apex provide can help us control those costs. So I hope everybody's got their pencils. We're going to do a little bit of schoolwork here, but I promise it's really easy stuff. So all of us have budgets to manage, and insurance can be right up near the top of the list as far as cost. So it's critical that we understand how the carriers view all of you as an association so that we can help drive the premiums where they should be. As your broker, it's my job to provide you with the knowledge and to put you in the driver's seat and help you have a clear picture of what the costs are and how we, meaning myself and the boards and management, can actually help control them. So here we have a very basic model of how insurance premiums are calculated. We have 3 times 4 times 5 equals 60. For this exercise, the first number will represent our current exposure. The second number will be our loss history. The third number is our market representation. And the product of the equation is the last number, or our insurance premium. If we change any one of those numbers or values, we change the outcome of the equation or the premium. So what is the 3? It's really just a placeholder. It could be a 7, it could be a 5, but what it represents is our current exposure. So what is that? That is who we are as an association right now. How many units? What type of construction? Is it wood frame? Is it joisted masonry? Is it fire resistive? Where are we located? How many square feet per unit? And what kind of amenities do we have? Of those things that I just mentioned, generally speaking, we can't really change those. But there are things that we can change about our current exposure, such as clarifying your insurance agreement, deductible resolutions, rental limitation amendments, HO6 requirements. Any one of these things, or perhaps a combination of a few of them, can help make that 3 a little smaller for our equation. The next number in our equation is the 4. Again, it's just a placeholder, but this placeholder represents our loss history or our loss experience. And again, that's who we are as an association. So how many losses we've had, what types of losses, and are they habitual? Meaning, does the same thing keep happening over and over? I should also point out here that losses are weighted, not just by dollar amount, but by preventability. Have we tried to prevent claims from repeating? Are the repeating water damage claims? That's a pretty common one. Or do we continue having dryer vent fires, right, Tom? So those things mean something to the insurance carriers. So how do we change our 4 to a 3? How do we get it smaller? By analyzing our losses and developing a plan to reduce them in the future. Tom could be part of that plan. If you guys have fireplaces, that's a good one too, inspections. And so Tom could be a part of that plan. Some examples For that plan, things we can change may include implementing some policies like water heater replacement, first resistant hose requirement, minimum heat setting requirement. Also, capital improvement projects like paving and roofs. Roofs are a big one. Railing and handguard inspections, and one of the easiest and most beneficial can be dryer vent and chimney cleaning requirements. So if we can figure out how to control some losses, our loss experience, the 4, can maybe go down to say a 3. And 3 times 3 times 5 is 45. And that's better than 60, right? It seems like a dramatic change, but we're using some whole numbers here just to keep it kind of simple. So these are just some examples of how we can change that 4, ultimately get better control over the insurance premiums. And that's really the end goal here. So that brings us to the last number. And the last number in our equation is perhaps the most important and the most influential. That's the 5. That is your market representation. To put it another way, who you have chosen to prepare the plan by which you're going to negotiate with the insurance marketplace, which may realistically be about 3 to 5 carriers. And most of you guys can name off the top of your head, right? You hear the same names over and over again. You hear CAU, Ian Graham, Philly, maybe even some Middleoken. You're going to hear GNY. So you guys know who the carriers are, who the players are, unless you're in the unfortunate situation of being surplus lines, and well, nobody really wants to be there. So who you choose has a massive impact on the process and in return the outcome. So it is critical that you choose your representation way off of your X date or your renewal date to effectively manage the costs. Let's make that 5 look more like a 4 or even a 3. So I'd like to use an analogy. So are we ready for the dance, or did we just roll out of bed, grab some jeans from the hamper, call an Uber? So if so, that 5 may already be an 8 or a 9. Now, it's true that we have to go to this same dance every year, but that's no reason not to look good, especially when how we look to the insurance marketplace has an enormous impact on how they're going to treat us. I say that we start planning for this dance way in advance. And first we look at what's going on around us in the market. So with that information, we can start to develop our plan. We can nail down what we want our message to look like. We grab our BFF, we get our nails done, we get our hair done, we do our makeup. I know Javier, you're gonna do my makeup for me, right? Because I'll do yours. And when the big stretch limo shows up to take us, we're ready. So looking good, feeling good, no anxiety, no stress, no frustration, because we've been planning this all along. I think Chrissy's gonna help me with Javier's makeup as well. So we've chosen the best date to escort us. That would be your broker, and we're off to the big dance. Now, our number 5 is looking more like a 4 or even a 3. So now you could try to have more than one date or broker for the dance, but that wouldn't be the best way to get what we want. That just gets messy, and the 5 will look more like a 10. Now, 3 times 4 times 10 is no bueno. Pick your date long before it's time to dance, and this way you guys will know what to expect from each other, and you'll look fantastic, and you guys can dance together like pros. So the goal here is really carrier competition, not broker competition. We want the carriers to want the risk, to feel good about writing your association, and here's why. With broker competition, all right, there is no clear plan. There are hidden agendas. There's little to no communication, and that last minute crunch right before X date that nobody wants to see. So if your broker can't see the whole market, meaning all of the 4 or 5 carriers willing to write in this very, very niche market, how do they know if their quotes are any good? And then if they do actually get something somewhere that another broker hasn't touched and been blocked out of, then why are they going to give up what I think or what he or she thinks is a good quote so that someone else can swoop in at the last minute and beat it by $10 by leaving something out? But guess what? You didn't see that because there was no time left. So none of this is any good. By choosing your number 5 early in the process, you develop your plan, agree on an agenda, and all of that chocolatey goodness that comes with that. All right, so we know who we are. That's the 3. We know how to start to curb your losses and manage the risks. That's the 4. And we have our date, our chosen broker, the 5. And the product of these 3 will give us the perspective and the clarity to know where we should be in the marketplace. So It's it's math, it's an equation, but I hope this helps explains how what you do as a community has a direct impact on how the insurance marketplace looks at you and what exactly that means. Because believe it or not, once your boards begin to realize that they can help control costs, they begin to take ownership of it. That's good for all of you. It's good for me too. It makes our lives easier because now we put the onus on them to improve their communities so they can look better to the carriers. So it's time to start driving those premiums where they should be rather than just accepting these increases year after year after year. There's reasons for them. So thank you all for having me. Thank you for staying awake. And I'm going to give the mic back to you, Jess, and if anybody has any questions.
Yeah, actually, we have a couple of questions for Tom in the chat bar. Tom, Lori was asking about non-compliant residents or people that don't want technicians in their home to clean the dryer vents. Can you explain how you guys do that?
Sure, I absolutely can. That's a great question. So it's back in December before COVID hit. So we do a lot of air duct cleaning, and part of our tool selection is that we have industrial compressors in our trucks to power our tools. So in December, I decided that all the trucks are going to be outfitted with these compressors. So I went ahead and we had them all done. And then sometime in like March is when COVID hit. The industry basically was shutting down. But we adapted really well to this, and I'll explain why. We have this special tool. If you can see this, it's a very flimsy rubber hose. Okay, this is an air hose. And on the tip is a jet head, and it has little holes in it, and this thing spins really fast. Okay, and what this does is this goes ahead and propels itself through the dryer vent line, and at the same time it is air jetting this way and pushing the lint out. So we could actually air scrub an entire dryer vent from the outside without ever entering the homes. So not only is this good for COVID, but it's really good for and we did this not because of COVID. We did this because we get so many calls from management companies to go out and do the non-conforming homeowners, people who have tenants, people who have abandoned homes or whatever, but they still have to comply with the fire marshal to have it done. They call us in with a list of people. We go out and we do like 15, 20 of these things in a community from the outside only. So it's a very, very, it's a very efficient, and it does a really great job doing it. And at the same time, it's very delicate to the system. So why is that important? Why is it being delicate important? Most homes in the 80s and 90s were built with rigid pipe that was secured with duct tape. Now, if you guys are all familiar with duct tape, over time, it loses its stickiness. Sorry, it's one of those words. So it's unable to bond the pipes together. So over time, it'll separate very, very easy. This is why we moved away from brushes, because a lot of times the agitation is strong. It'll separate the line, and then you open up a whole big can of worms. Well, with the air tools, they're a lot more delicate, but more efficient of expelling the lint. So we moved to those, but that was a great question. So yeah, the way the policy works is this: we get to the house, we call the homeowner. They don't want us in the home. We say, turn on your dryer. We check the airflow first. Then tell them to turn the dryer off. We send our snakes in, we air jet the system. When we're done, we tell the homeowner, please turn your dryer on again. And then we test the airflow to make sure the airflow is good. We clean up, pack up, and they can pay over the phone.
And Lori's got a follow-up question. So if the property manager provides you with a list of homes that are non-compliant, can you clean the vents from the outside and the association can bill back the unit owners? This would be a better option than giving a violation.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's exactly what we do. We get hired by the association, and then we bill directly through them. Homeowners, tenants, they don't know it even existed. And I'll tell you a story of how this started. I got called into a property up in Edison, and I had to meet with the locksmith. So I'm like, what am I doing here with a locksmith? You know that it took us 4 hours to get into 4 homes for $50 dry events. I'm like, what? Are you guys kidding me? I said, they're gonna be out here in 20 minutes. So this is how the whole thing started. I says, no way, this is no way. So
But
that's how
Tom, if we have the homes that are non-compliant, let's say that, and the people are at home, they're at work, we're cleaning it from the outside, we can't go in to run their dryer. So does that make a difference if you just clean it, but they're not inside to test it or anything?
no, when we snake this thing, it's just, that's the blind spot. There is a blind spot, Lori, but as long as we air jet the system and this jet goes all the way through, then we know the line's clear. So yeah, I mean, it's just that's a blind spot. We can't test, the airflow if they're, what's going on.
But it's
inside
better
the-
than doing something than nothing.
That's exactly right. We actually will clean the whole line. We'll clean the whole line. I mean, we'll get there, but we won't know what's happening behind the dryer. That's on the homeowner. I mean,
Right.
the homeowner's responsible for that. But we can clean the dryer, the rigid pipe, the whole system, and be compliant.
But that is a good thing for the managers, maybe going forward, to say that, you've gotten 2 violations already. If you don't do it by the certain date, we're gonna have it done for you from the outside and we're gonna bill you back.
Yeah,
This way, at least we know it's done.
Yeah, most I work with at least a half a dozen property management companies that hire us directly. We expect the list every year, in multiple properties. So yeah, when we just get the list, we go out and we do it, and that's that. The other thing that gets a little sticky is when you have communities that we do both the chimney inspection and then the dry event cleaning, because we can't do the chimney without getting in the house.
Right, okay.
So
so
that's
only
the
the dryer.
challenge that you'll face with homeowners with the chimney. There's nothing we could do about that, but at least for the dryer and the fire marshal, they'll be okay with the dry event. So yeah, it's a great tool to use.
Yeah, actually, I think I watched one of your videos. If you could send that, or Jessica, even, I think Tom had a video of how they do it from the outside, because that would be a good thing for us to send to the homeowners to say, it's mandatory. So this is what will be done, and this is what we're going to bill you back for. In the cases that the people don't, because that's the big problem. You never get 100% compliance.
Yeah.
Okay,
And,
cool.
Yeah, the other thing we do is, you try to motivate them and give them a deadline date,
Mhm.
and when we go ahead and we'll give a special rate for the community and say, hey, listen, this rate of whatever it is, $79 is good until the deadline date. Then after the deadline date, the price
Right.
goes up to regular rates of $89 or whatever it is, So you try to motivate them with that, but it doesn't work.
And also, your company will send us the receipt that it was done, so we don't have to rely on the homeowner to send it.
Yeah,
proof
that's
of
another,
cleaning.
yep, absolutely. We keep track of our certification forms. So obviously we want the homeowner to turn in their own stuff, but if you call us and say, listen, unit 32B didn't give us our certification forms, can you give it to us? We have everything on file and we can send you a copy of it. So yeah, we have a great customer service team that's able to keep track of this. And property managers love it because we could send them a spreadsheet report, on who we did and completions, and so record keeping on our end is a real strength. We try to do it to help property managers better manage their properties. Because I remember one time it was in East Brunswick. I walked in, and I'm not kidding you, man. It was a stack like this. I'm like, what is that? Like,
Yeah.
these are all dry event receipts. I'm like, and then going through them, I says, oh my God. I said, no. He says, yeah, I'll send you a PDF file. Hold on. It's a lot
Cool.
easier to search that way. So there's things that we could do to help. And listen, any input that you guys can give us to make your lives better, please do. Send me an email, say, hey, Tom, can you do this? Can you do that? Blah, blah, blah. I'd love to improve. So
Yeah.
any feedback would be really great.
Thank you.
I have some more questions for Tom. Holly wants to know, she knows that the recommendation for dryer vent cleanings is every 2 years, but why is it not more frequently? And, I guess my question then, a follow-up question to that is, are there cases, maybe like a shared laundry room, does that need to be cleaned more frequently than every 2 years?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Okay. Number one, there's different perspectives. It's bad enough every 2 years. Getting people to comply. My father was a fireman in New York his whole life. And then back in, I think in the 60s or 70s, he told me, he goes, when they first implemented smoke alarms into a home, do you know that they had to go in door by door and force people to put smoke alarms in to save their lives? So you think about the same concept as a dry event. Getting people to comply every 2 years is hard enough, but doing it every year, that'd be an even bigger challenge. But here it is. It should be up to the dry event vendor that you hire to give you that recommendation, because there's many times that we go into a home and we say this configuration in this community is extremely long. So for example, a lot of homes will have the house, the dryers up on the second floor, they would go up the wall, they might travel 20 feet to the outside. You'll have very, very limited airflow. Okay, and the configuration doesn't really conform to the building code because it's extended longer than it's supposed to be. What happens then is the air velocity out of that dryer is shortened, which means the lint won't get all the way out and it'll accumulate faster. In cases like that, you want to have those dry events cleaned every year, and we'll put a recommendation into that to have that done. Okay, but majority of the time, if a dry event vendor goes into your community and he does the proper job, meaning if they go up on the roof, they need to get into the roof or the attic, 90% of the lint is going to accumulate on that roof vent. It gets stuck. They're poorly designed. And I can't tell you how many times guys go in, they charge $50. They go in with a leaf blower, they blow it out, they leave, they get a certificate, and everybody's fine. It's not fine. If you do it right, 2 years is more than enough time.
And we have another question about the exterior cleaning. Is there a price difference between an exterior or regular interior cleaning of the dryer vents?
No, we usually charge $69, to go out there, and do at least 5 or more or whatever. So no, there's no pricing increase. What we'll do is whatever price they, a lot of times, there'll be several vendors on a list, or we might be an exclusive vendor in a property, whatever it is. But normally, whenever we give a price, we'll stick to that price, whatever we gave you for that, and group them together and go out and do them in a bunch. So, we don't want to hurt anybody. So, the price stays usually about the same as what we do is when we go ahead and give a group rate.
And then a quick question about the dryer vent cleaning. So you do that every 2 years for the communities. Is it recommended that they have the whole dryer cleaned out too? Is that part of that service, or is that a separate service?
So no, it's a separate service that we offer, but we recommend. So on our certification form, there's a couple of things that we go over. Okay. First off, what we do is, when I told you, we do an inspection, and part of that inspection is to say, hey, are you using this material or are you using this material? Okay. So I'll put down, is this system compliant with manufacturer's recommendation? Okay. So that's number one. And then number two, we'll go through the entire inspection process, and we'll be able to determine if the dryer is in a condition that we'll recommend to have the internal cleaning. Basically, every 3 years on average is what I would recommend to have the internal dryer cleaned. Now, that may be 2 years if you have dogs that shed. Let me explain a little bit. Just like a vacuum cleaner or anything else that draws air in, a dryer is no different. It takes combustion air from the room and sucks it into the dryer. So if you have dogs that shed, you have cats, you have a lot of carpeting in the home, all of these things contribute to building up inside of the dryer through the air intakes. So, the combination of that and the lint, then you would recommend it having it every 2 years, then internally cleaned. So, that's the difference. So again, it goes by, the conditions of the home.
Okay, we have a couple of questions for Steve. Do the insurance carriers ever request proof of compliance for dryer vent and fireplace cleaning, or are they satisfied with there just being a policy in place? How can managers?
No, they don't ask for, I'm sorry.
And then the follow-up is, how can managers proactively manage this process to keep premiums lower?
Okay, the first part about, do they require proof of compliance? No, they don't. They want to see the policy. They're going to leave it up to management and the board to enforce those policies. If it's listed, they don't actually, most carriers don't require there to be an actual cleaning policy in place. They recommend it. It makes you more insurable. It makes you look better as a community and more attractive. It's not going to directly say that you get a certain % discount off your premium, but what it does is it helps to paint the picture as to who that association is, that they actually care about the property, that they're going to maintain the property, and that there's a lower risk of random fires. Remember, when a carrier writes a community, it's a gamble. So they're going to say, all right, we're gonna charge you this little bit amount of money because we don't think that there's going to be this huge loss. So by managing those risks and controlling those losses, they're going to be more apt to give you a break on that and take in less money for that risk. So no, they're going to leave it up to management to actually enforce it. And they want to see what the policy looks like. They're going to want to see, if it's in your bylaws or if it's amendment or resolution, they're going to want to see that if we actually indicate that that's in place. As far as managers proactively manage the process, again, it's just a question of keeping the policy in place and making sure that it's enforced. And really, it's self-governing in the fact that if you don't have repetitive dryer fires or chimney fires, then they're gonna notice that. If you have 2 or 3 a year, then that's really going to spell out the problem for them, and they're going to know that there's an issue.
Will a carrier ever deny coverage for lack of dryer vent resolution in place?
Deny coverage for a claim for a dryer fire? Not to my knowledge. They will only, people start to argue about fault. Whose fault is this? Whose fault is that? And the carriers don't really care about fault. What they're concerned with, is it a sudden and accidental event, and is it a covered cause of loss? So unless you lit a rag on fire and threw it into the dryer and somebody can prove that you did that, that would be, gross negligence, wanton misconduct. That would be intentional. That would be denied. But simply not having a policy in place, no, they're not going to deny coverage for that. Now, what may happen is if you have 4 dryer fires in a year or so, they may put a mandatory, a loss rec in there. Nobody likes loss recs because that's the carrier saying you have to do this or we're going to drop you. Or we're just going to non-renew, not necessarily drop, but non-renew. So if there's a repetition, if there's, I think I spoke about it earlier, habitual claims, then they may say, hey guys, unless you put this into effect, we're just not going to renew you next year. And we're CAU and we have the best prices. So good luck finding somebody else, because when you have a non-renew, that goes on your record. That's a mark against you. So when I try to remarket it and I want to bring it to GNY or Ian Graham or one of the good carriers, they're going to say, well, how come CAU doesn't want this anymore? And then they're going to look at your loss runs and they're going to see 4 dryer fires and they're going to be like, well, what are you guys doing about that? Because we don't want that either, because that doesn't sound good. So it goes back to how the association looks. And I touched on it before. When you put the onus on the board, right, you get it off the manager's desk and you make it the board's responsibility to really make the place look good. It gets it off of your desk. It gets off of my desk, so that when a carrier says, hey guys, we're going to increase deductibles, or we're going to increase your premium, or we're going to non-renew unless you guys do that. Well, it doesn't look bad on me. It doesn't look bad on you guys. That's the association that created that issue. So once you get them to realize that that's the reality of how a carrier perceives an association, then they go, well, how do we fix that, Steve? How do we fix that, Chrissy? How do we fix that, Javier? And then these small, easy steps of a policy is how we fix that. That's how we make you look better for that dance.
Question about dryer fires. How often are dryer fires, hold on, I'm reading the wrong one here. There was a question about how many dryer fires occur in communities each year.
Tom, you want to field that one?
Yeah, sure.
I have data from the U.S. Fire Administration, and it doesn't break it down as to whether they're started in the vent or started in the dryer itself.
Yeah. So this is a great question. So Environmental Protection Agency stated it was like 15,000 dryer fires per year. However, I'm going to tell you it's probably maybe 20 times that number. And what they're stating is reported dryer fires.
Right.
Okay, now these are what we see in this business. I've been, again, going back to my experience in the business as far as fixing appliances. I cannot tell you how many dryer fires that I go to. Well, actually, I can. It's averaging 2 a week that we would go to a dryer and it would be like the dryer's not drying properly or the dryer smell a little burning, and we open it up. And if you go to my website, you'll be able to see it. We see dryer just burnt lint throughout the entire dryer. And because dryers are made of non-combustible material, thank God they stay contained inside, but they're really common, and they're more common than you could imagine. But it doesn't get reported. We go in, we clean them up, we vacuum all the burnt lint out, we treat it with an odor eliminator, and the dryer is then saved. So we see it very, very often. And I just want to touch base on another question that I saw about, the difference between cleaning it from the outside or cleaning it from the inside, if there's any, difference, insurance wise or whatever. So if we clean it from the inside, what we do is we pull the dryer out, we clean out, we send a blower through that system from the inside to the out, and then another guy's on the outside. We show up with 2 guys and we snake the line from the outside. So it's a double cleaning. And then we push the dryer back and everything is fine. That still is not going to stop the fact that that dryer, lint inside that dryer could still go on fire. So if they overload the dryer or they don't clean the lint filter, you still can have a dryer fire. Remember, there was 3 things that caused it, right? We only eliminated one of them. So cleaning the dryer vent from the outside only is the same as cleaning it from the inside, but you still do not eliminate the other 2 factors. So just keep that in mind. Even though you're cleaning the dryer vent, there's still other factors that can still cause a dryer to go on fire. And again, the only way to truly protect the dryer and truly protect the home is by dismantling the dryer and cleaning that lint away from that burner assembly.
Yep.
So that's the only way.
If I could add to that, Tom, because somebody asked about if it's always lint that does it. The data that we have says that the majority of it is lint, and then a close second is the actual overloading. Like Tom said before, overloading is a close second, but the leading cause is lint in the system of buildup.
Excellent. Yeah.
I don't see any more questions. Does anyone have any other final questions? Okay, I'm gonna just put my email in the chat bar again. I know some people joined late. If you need credits for the CMCA designation, please send me an email with information, and I will make sure that you get your certificate and that your information is submitted to the CAI board, so you get credit for today's presentation. Well, if that's it, then thank you everybody for joining. And have a great day.
Bye, guys.
Thank you all.
Thanks,
Thank you so
everybody.
much.
All right, thank you. Great presentation.
Bye.
Bye.